In today's video, we are going to take a look at 10 compact flowering shrubs for small gardens and landscapes. Hi, I'm Heidi from Garden Crossings, and compact shrubs are ideal for gardeners with limited space or for areas where you just need to add a little special splash of something. Our selections include shrubs that have colorful blooms, beautiful foliage, and that's just going to add exciting and unique texture to your garden, landscapes, or in containers. So that's right, these shrubs are all small enough that if you like to do container gardening, they will also fit in your containers. The first one we're going to look at is Buddleia, or butterfly bush, and we're going to look at particularly the Pugster series. So I really have loved the Pugster series ever since it's been introduced. It's probably been about 5 years or so now. And what it is that I love about that Pugster series is that the flowers are absolutely huge. A very small plant, only standing about 24 inches tall and wide, but really large, substantial flowers that really give a lot of impact to that butterfly bush. Butterfly bushes are hardy in zones 5 to 9. And like I said, Pugsters, they get about 24 inches tall and about 24 inches wide. They have the fragrant blooms as well, so there's nothing better than having beautiful flowers, but also some beautiful fragrance. They are deer resistant, and butterfly bush, they bloom off of the new season's growth, so you can trim them in the fall or in the spring, kind of depending on whatever works best for your gardening schedule. We do recommend, though, if you live more towards the north or in the zone 5 or so gardens, it may be better suited for that plant if you wait until the spring to do any trimming on it. Next, we're going to look at the Caryopteris or bluebeard. This is an absolutely beautiful shrub. Hardy in zones 5 to 9. It gets about 24 inches tall and 24 inches wide and likes to be grown in full sun locations. The thing I love about this Beyond Midnight is that it's got beautiful, dark, glossy foliage. And in the late summer, when those blooms just open up, it's such a beautiful, vibrant shade of blue. Now, it's really hard to get blue in flower color. A lot of times it's going to be more purples and such, but this Caryopteris Beyond Midnight really has some gorgeous, deep blue flowers. It's a great plant too for attracting pollinators. I know in our gardens, whenever the Caryopteris are in bloom, there's always an abundance of pollinators around. It is a deer-resistant shrub that also blooms off of the new growth, so it can be trimmed in the fall or in the spring. Next on the list is a beautiful, more compact mounding shrub, Dsia cherry blossom. Cherry blossom is hardy in zones 5 through 8, and it only gets about 1.5 to 2 foot tall and wide. So this is a very compact shrub, perfect for borders or even kind of ground cover type settings. It grows in sun, 2-part sun locations, and it has numerous pink buds on it in the spring that open up to beautiful white flowers. Just a real sea of color once those buds turn to blooms. It does have a beautiful, nice light fragrance to it. In the fall, it's got great interest with its burgundy foliage. Dsia cherry blossom also is a shrub that blooms off of the new growth, so it can be trimmed in the fall or in the spring. And nothing says spring like the blooms of Forsythia. I'm sure there are so many of you right now that are thinking Forsythia, and all of a sudden a memory comes to mind. There's so many plants out there that are associated with memories. For me, the Forsythia is going to my grandparents' house in the spring and seeing these beautiful yellow flowers in bloom. We'd even cut some of them and put them in the vase to enjoy indoors. Forsythia sugar baby is hardy in zones 4 to 8, and that one only gets about 1 to 3 foot tall. So if you're thinking of memories of years back, you're probably thinking of these giant Forsythia that get, 6 to 8 foot tall. But these new ones, this sugar baby, is a very compact variety. The thing I like about this too is that it blooms from what I like to call from tip to toe, meaning flowers up and down the stem. So when that plant is in flower, it is just a massive sea of yellow blooms. It is a deer-resistant shrub variety and blooms off of the old growth. So this is a shrub you will not want to trim in the spring because it does set its flowers in the fall. The next on the list, and of course you knew I was going to have a hydrangea, I'm sure, because hydrangeas are one of the most popular shrub varieties that we sell. And a lot of times too, hydrangeas can be more taller in stature, especially when we're talking hardy or panicle hydrangeas. But there's a new one on the market called Firelight Tidbit. And as the name implies, it's just a tidbit little plant. It's hardy in zones 3 to 8 and only gets 2 to 3 foot tall and 2 to 3 foot wide. So you think, how can a plant that's so small carry these large hydrangea blooms that you maybe are used to seeing? That's not a problem for Firelight Tidbit. Although it is small in stature, it can hold up large, beautiful blooms. It likes to be grown in full sun to part sun locations, and it usually blooms here in Michigan around I would say more about mid-August or so. The flowers come out white, and as they age, they transition to a beautiful magenta color. They also make great cut flowers if you like to cut some flowers to bring indoors, or also if you're somebody who likes to do dried flowers, they also make a very nice dried flower. Hydrangea Firelight Tidbit blooms off of the new growth, so you can trim that one in the fall or in the spring. Next on the list is a very fragrant shrub. It's a sweet spire or Cythia, and we're going to be talking about Scentlandia. Again, as the name implies, Scentlandia would tell you that this shrub probably has a lot of fragrance to it. Scentlandia is hardy in zones 5 to 9, and it gets only 2 to 3 foot tall, so a compact sweet spire. The nice thing for those of you who have shade, you're thinking, Heidi, you haven't hit or talked about anything for shade yet. Cythia is a shrub that can be grown in full sun to full shade locations. Super fragrant, beautiful white bottle brush flowers that bloom early summer. It's a nice native shrub as well. And not only does this have those great, fantastic, fragrant spring blooms, it has amazing fall foliage as well. So in the fall, as it transitions, it's going to take on shades of red and orange. It's a deer-resistant shrub, and it does bloom off of the new growth, so it can be trimmed in the fall or in the spring. Roses always come to mind when I think of something more in the compact size, especially the At-Last rose. So we have carried the At-Last rose now for, boy, time escapes me, but I'm thinking it might even be going on its 8th or 9th year. And ever since the At-Last rose has been introduced, it was quickly a favorite here of not only mine, but also of the gardeners that are shopping at Garden Crossings. At-Last rose is hardy in zones 5 to 9. It gets about 30 to 36 inches tall and likes to be grown in full sun locations. It blooms all summer long. So it is going to kind of cycle. So you'll get your blooms. You need to kind of maybe trim off some of those spent blooms, and then it will quickly send another round of buds that will eventually become flowers. It's got large pink flowers, beautiful fragrance to it, and the At-Last rose blooms off of the new growth. Next is Spirea. So Spirea, I think people have different feelings about Spirea. But this one here, Spirea Double Play Doozy, is really just that. It is a doozy of a plant for the garden. It blooms all summer long. So Double Play Doozy is hardy in zones 3 to 8. It only gets about 2 to 3 foot tall, creates a beautiful mound. This is a great plant for foundation plantings. It likes to be grown in full sun to part sun locations. And the thing that's nice about the Double Play Doozy is it's a sterile Spirea variety. So what does that mean? A sterile Spirea is meaning that this plant is not going to be putting its energy into producing seeds, because this plant does not produce seeds. So all of its energy is going to get continually put into this plant to produce more and more flowers. So this Spirea blooms virtually all summer long with beautiful red blooms, and the foliage is really great as well. It's kind of a dark green, little hints of red on it sometimes. Just a beautiful plant, beautiful habit, and the flowers are outstanding. It's a deer-resistant shrub, and that one too blooms on new growth. So it can be trimmed in the fall or in the spring. Talking about memories, like we talked earlier with the Forsythia, lilacs or syringa, that is another plant that I think really is a trigger to memories. Nothing better than smelling that beautiful lilac scent in the spring, just about the time you're ready to open your windows and you get this beautiful lilac smell in the house. So probably some of the lilacs you're thinking about, some of the old-fashioned lilacs are tall, 8-foot tall, 10-foot tall, big varieties. So why am I talking about a lilac in a compact shrub talk? Well, that is because the Bloomerang Ballet Lilac is a compact sized lilac. Not only is it compact, standing only 3 to 4 foot tall, it's also a reblooming lilac. So if you enjoy the scent of lilac in the spring, you can now enjoy the scent of it throughout the summer. Bloomerang Ballet Lilac is hardy in zones 3 to 7, and to date it is the most prolific reblooming lilac on the market. It's a deer-resistant shrub, and it blooms both on the new and the old growth, which is where those reblooming qualities come into play. Beautiful pink blooms. And last on the list is a Vila Mayon. So I have a lot of these plants in my garden, but I have Vila Mayon in what I call my circle garden, planted with Atlas roses and with a beautiful limelight standard hydrangea. What I love about the Vila Mayon is its beautiful foliage, bicolor foliage. It's green and white, and at times it even has a little blush pink color to the tips. Mayon is hardy in zones 4 to 6. It gets about 1.5 to 2.5 foot tall and wide. It just creates a beautiful mounding type habit. It has pink tubular flowers in the spring, so something that the hummingbirds and the butterflies really enjoy. It also is a deer-resistant shrub, and it does bloom on the previous season's growth. So this would be one you would not want to trim in the spring for sure. And I would recommend, if you do need to do any pruning, which rarely do you need to, you would want to prune after the first, after those flowers flower in the spring. So hopefully if you are, if you're intrigued about, shrubs that are compact in size, don't take up a lot of space, perfect for just tucking in here and there in the garden, or if container gardening is more your style, most of these shrubs are all compact enough that they can go in containers or in small spaces and in small gardens. I chose the ones that are my favorite. So like I do usually, of course you're going to talk about things that you love and things that you favor. So all of these things that are on this list are plants that I have in my own garden as well. If any of these looked of interest to you, you can head to our website, gardencrossings.com, and you can place your order and we will ship these directly to your door. If you're new to our channel, we welcome you to subscribe. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. Thanks for watching. I'm Heidi from Garden Crossings.